Hi again. Phase 2 is a little more complicated than Phase 1, so I want to spend some time explaining it. You'll see that I've added a section of a book chapter from my HRM book below that provides more detail about creating a point method job evaluation plan. Now that we know what jobs this new organization is going to have, and we have job descriptions for those jobs, we need to address internal equity. That is, we need to be able to justify why we think some jobs are more valuable to the organization than other jobs. This will help us price the jobs that we can't find wages for in the job market. To do this, we're going to need to conduct what's called a job evaluation. A job evaluation is a process that results in a list of jobs from the most valuable to the least valuable. The most effective way to do this is usually the point method, because it tells us how valuable the jobs are relative to each other. Once we have such a list, we can then price some of the jobs, the ones we can get job market information on, and then we can price the others by determining and comparing them to the jobs that we were able to get prices on. So if we value job A the same as job B and we can get a market value for job A, then we know that job B should get the same wages as job A. The first step to developing a point method job evaluation plan is to select compensable factors. So that is, what aspects of the job, what factors, will make some jobs more valuable than others. Common compensable factors include knowledge required to do the job, the responsibility the job has over other people, over machinery, or over money, the judgment required to do the job, the education required to do the job, the experience needed to do the job, the effort needed to do the job, and with greater levels of these factors, that results in higher points. So a job that requires a master's degree would receive more points, other things being equal, than a job that just required a high school degree. Another common compensable factor is working conditions, with more difficult working conditions receiving more points. You can also be strategic in determining the compensable factors by including a factor or two that ties directly to the company's strategy. For example, if your strategy is customer service, you may include a customer service factor, where jobs that interact more with customers get more points than those that don't. Or if your strategy is innovation, a reasonable factor would be an innovation factor, where jobs that require greater creativity get more points than those that don't. But remember that the more you use non-standard factors, the less your evaluation plan will correlate with what the market values, and this could create some difficulties later in a future phase. In the case of your project, 4 to 7 compensable factors would probably be justifiable, somewhere in that range. Once you've determined the compensable factors, the next step is to assign factor weights. That is, how important are these factors relative to each other? One way to think of this is what's the number of points the highest level of this factor can receive, and what proportion of total points is that? For example, working conditions is generally considered a minor factor and usually weighted only at about 5%. So if the total points available in a plan is 1,000, which is a common standard, then the highest level of working conditions, meaning the poorest working conditions, would be worth 50 points. Factors such as knowledge required, experience required, or education are usually weighted anywhere from 15 to 30%. The weighing of all factors together has to total 100%. The third step is to define the factor degrees. So that is the categories of the lowest to highest of each factor. The number of degrees generally ranges from 3 to 7 on each factor. How many degrees we're going to have, or the number of degrees, depends on the clear differences among the jobs on that factor. For example, if you choose to have a standard factor of education, for example, if you let's look at using education as a factor. So if you choose education required to be one of your factors, one way to determine how many different degrees there should be in the education factor is to see how many the job descriptions, how many different levels of education are mentioned in the job descriptions. So the reasonable degrees for education would be high school degree, AA degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree, and then a doctoral degree or a terminal degree. So thus, in this case, the education compensable factor would have 5 possible levels. If we had some jobs that did not require a high school degree, then we would add another degree to that, which would make 6 degrees, and that would be the another degree would be no high school necessary. So if you think you're going to eventually add jobs, even if you don't have a job now that doesn't even require a high school education, if you think you're going to add a job that may require it, that in the future that doesn't require a high school education, then you should include that category where it now has 6 levels. So let's say we decide we're always going to require a high school degree, and then we keep it at 5 levels. Then what should the point breakout be for each degree of the compensable factor? Well, the highest level doctoral degree will get the maximum specified in the previous step. So let's say we decided that education should be weighed at 25%. A doctoral degree would then be worth 250 points, so 25% of 1,000, and with the doctoral degree being the highest level. What about the others? Well, a reasonable breakout would be for our 5 levels that a high school degree is 50 points, an AA degree 100, bachelor's degree 150, a master's degree 200, and a doctoral degree 250 points. This is a viable factor and degree weights. It would be very common that that the lowest level should be worth some points. You don't want it set at 0 because every job is worth something. And in this case, the point differential between the levels is consistent, 50 points. So between a high school degree and AA degree, it's 50 point difference. Between a master's degree and a doctoral degree, it's 50 points difference. This is usually the easiest way to go. However, if some level differentials are clearly differently spaced, you can adjust these points to better reflect that. So this is also a viable, the way we've set it up now, having an education factor where high school degree is 50, AA degree 100, bachelor's degree 150, master's degree 200, and doctoral degree 250. It's also a viable factor because it allows the jobs to be easily classified. We can look at the job descriptions and quickly evaluate where this job falls in that, what level, what degree is appropriate for that job. So other factors such as knowledge or judgment required may need a short paragraph to describe each degree to help make the evaluation easier. So an example of the degree descriptions for a problem-solving factor is shown in the book chapter that I've posted below in the bottom of Exhibit 9.11 on page 371. An example of the final job evaluation plan is shown in the top of Exhibit 9.11 on page 371 of the book chapter. Note that this evaluation plan has 6 compensable factors, with factors having anywhere from 3 for working conditions to 5 supervision given and problem solving. Thus, for this example, the lowest number of points any job could get is 225. That is the lowest level of all compensable factors, and the most it could get is 1,000, the highest level in all factors. So the final step so that once you do that, you've decided your compensable factors, you have their degrees and the degree descriptions. The final step now in this project would be to evaluate all your jobs on the job evaluation plan you've created, and you get the totals for each job. For the project, these should be reported in the table and they should specify the score of each job on each factor as well as its total score. Once you've done this step, you've now got a list of jobs from the most valuable to the least valuable. And if an employee asks, why does this job pay more than mine? It's easily justifiable through the evaluation plan. For example, you could say, well, your job requires a bachelor's degree, but this one requires a master's degree. Well, that's it for phase 2. Please refer to the book chapter section I've posted below, as well as the sources mentioned in the syllabus for more detailed direction. And of course, I'd be happy to any questions you have. Good luck on phase 2.